let's have a talk about the autumn statement, first of all, if we may, with Jonathan Davis, economist and wealth manager. Morning to you there, Jonathan.
Good morning, Vic.
Good morning. Now, listen, we should all be interested in the autumn statement, shouldn't we? Because it affects a huge part of our lives now and the future as well.
Well, there will always be something there to remind us.
Nice.
Thank you. Because as a country, we're bankrupt. And when you think that for the last 6 years, hardly an insignificant period, earnings have not been keeping pace with the costs of living, and that can only continue down the road given successive government policies. Ultimately, when you consider that we're so in such a financially dire position that, I tell you, the maths don't lie. Within 20 or 30 years, you can basically say goodbye to the welfare state. So yes, we absolutely should be very, very focused and concerned about this.
Wowza, that's put the willies right up me. Jonathan, is there nothing to be optimistic about?
It depends on your individual position. For example, if you've been in the public sector earning quite well with a brilliant pension, you've got no debt, you've got your house, you're basically okay. But then if you're, say, under the age of 40, not in the public sector, maybe you've come out of college, university with a big debt, we're talking a whole swathe of the population just doesn't have the same opportunity or financial position that, shall we say, our generation has had or retirees have had, and certainly those in the public sector have. So there isn't a great deal to look forward to, given that the Chancellor yesterday, and it's the same with the other lot as well, there's no difference. They're just borrowing, in effect, from the next generation, and the next generation are the ones that are going to have to pay it back, and that's where all the trouble comes in. And unfortunately, it can only get worse unless and until the politicians accept the dire position that we're in. You know, an alcoholic knows that in order to turn themselves round, they have to admit the problem. Politicians of all colours have to admit the problem. Until that happens, no, there's not a lot to look forward to.
Well, no wonder. We're all blanking it out and moaning about Miranda. Listen, bear with me 1 second. Jonathan Davis, economist, we'll chat to him again in just a mo. First of all,
BBC, Coventry and Warwickshire travel.
Let's get the latest. Is Sarah Tilley.
Thank you, Vic. Good morning. It's still busy on the A429 Kenilworth Road at Coventry. A little bit of a queue towards the Stoneleigh Road and Gibbet Hill Road junction. But better news for Allesley Old Road in Coventry. The traffic lights at £4 Avenue are now back on. They were off for a while, but that problem has been sorted. Through Nuneaton on the Weddington Road, the A444, there are still some temporary lights up at the Weddington Lane junction. And still some roadworks in Easenhall for Cord Lane, which is closed off at the Main Street junction. Sarah Tilley, and we'll have more in half an hour.
Thank you very much indeed, Sarah Tilley. Now, taking a look at your weather for today. Blooming chilly out there, and it's cloudy. We might see a little bit of drizzle too. 6 is your best, 43 degrees in Fahrenheit. Tonight, quite cloudy, might be clear in some parts. That will see temperatures drop to about -2, 28 degrees Fahrenheit at the lowest. Tomorrow will dawn cloudy and damp with some light winds. I beg your pardon, brisk northeasterly winds coming in during the course of the afternoon, but that will see things brighten up a little. 7 Celsius is your best, 45 degrees in Fahrenheit.
Travel you trust.
We are BBC Coventry and Warwickshire.
So today, when we came in and started chatting about what we were going to put in the programme today, myself and my secretaries, as they are now known, got together and said, well, what's the big talking point today? What's everybody talking about? You look at the papers, you look on the social networks, and it's a toss-up, really, between the autumn statement and Christmas telly. which is full of repeats and the same old, really, same old. The schedule is pretty much exactly the same as it was last year. Strictly Come Dancing, Doctor Who, Downton Abbey, rah, rah, rah. A lot of repeats around as well. More than half of the telly we'll be seeing is repeats. So we'll have a chat a bit more about that in just a moment. But what's more important, and why are we talking about the telly when really it's the economy that matters? We'll talk about telly some more in a moment, but with us is economist Jonathan Davis. That's why we're talking about the telly, because you've just scared us senseless by saying we're all doomed to use another telly quote.
Indeed, don't tell them, Pike. I couldn't agree more. I'm not suggesting it's palatable. It's not. And that is the reason why the politicians and the media generally don't want people to realise what's going on. Instead, they want us to talk about EastEnders, Simon Cowell, and, as you say, Miranda Hart. Well, you've heard of the phrase bread and circuses, or Marie Antoinette said, let them eat cake. I'm sorry, this goes back to effectively ancient Greece. The people who lead never want people to realise what actually is the reality. The reality is, the reality is for decades, politicians have over-promised and under-delivered, and that's why we're in the dire financial position that we're in now.
Yeah, but they're going to over-promise, aren't they? Because they want us to vote for them.
Well, exactly. And I'm saying that they have lulled us into a false sense of security that we have. It is a fact. Economic growth, it is as good as you'll find in the developed world. And you think, well, what on earth have you been talking about then, Jonathan Davis? But the problem is, to get that economic growth, we have whole swathes of the population who have no money at the end of the week. And secondly, we've got this effectively zero interest rate policy, which helps to keep things going, but of course it effectively screws savers, retirees, and the young. And then you've got house prices which are huge, which again the young are toast. And we're borrowing £100 billion a year to pretend that everything is basically okay. So this is the point. They're telling us to look over here when, in fact, we need to be looking over there.
Okay, well, all right. So what does the Chancellor do then? Does he say, look, we need to stop borrowing, so I'm just going to stop spending on everything. We've got no welfare state. We're going to take money away from local authorities and stop borrowing. What does he do? Because it's a massive problem. Surely the only way to change things is to break things down and one step at a time. That's what he's doing, isn't it?
Yeah. No. Well, first of all, he's not taking one step at a time. Apparently we've had austerity for the last 4.5 years. Believe me, borrowing £100 billion a year is not austere. It's the opposite of austere. They're not making any of the hard decisions. It's a fallacy.
Well, if you've lost your job and you... Hang on a minute, sorry, Jonathan, we've had a lot of job losses here in Coventry and Warwickshire from our public bodies. I don't think we could have taken much more austerity, to be honest.
Yeah. To which I would say to you that actually what's happened is, I don't know what the appropriate phrase is, but I'll use this, the froth has come off the top. The public sector grew massively under Gordon Brown, as everyone very well knows, and in fact, all those job losses in the public sector, are our bins not being collected? Are we not receiving the public services? The answer is we are. In other words, it was froth that had to be taken off the top. Austerity, no, we haven't had austerity.
Is there, Jonathan,
anyone who suggests that it's difficult now, believe me, you have no idea what it's going to be like over the next 5, 10, 20 years when reality hits home.
Do me a favour, right? It's the 4th of December. I had Mary, Joseph and Jesus in my advent calendar yesterday, so I'm feeling quite cock-a-hoop. There has to be something. There is a silver lining somewhere, Jonathan. Go on, one silver lining.
Well, you know, if they made changes to their policies, which they won't do, such as if instead of having a zero interest rate policy, they actually let the free market set interest rates, then interest rates would be higher, house prices would be lower, savers would benefit, the cost of living would fall, the cost of running businesses would fall, then we could get things going. But until something like that happens, which is unlikely to happen, I tell you, we're on the way down. We've been on the way down for the last 6 years. We're on the way down for the next 26 years, approximately.
OK, he's like the anti-Santa, isn't he? I'm not going to give you anything good. Jonathan Davis, economist.